Guys, welcome back to another Tuesday Talks. Today we are going to be talking about coaches. So I'm gonna jump over to Stevie Boy first, and I'm gonna say, Steve, tell us about um, either the best coach you've ever had or a coach that you've always looked up to.
Oh, dang, dude, that's very difficult because my three coaches in high school, I definitely enjoyed as hard as they were on me, man. They used to drill me if I messed up or but one in particular, John Gorham, well known out here, man. He's really old now, but John Gorham was actually my godfather's coach at another local high school, Norte Vista High School. And this guy was, I mean, he coached my uncle. My uncle played San Diego State, and he the same stories my uncle would tell me about him being such a hardcore, just guy, is it was the same way with me. You know what I mean? And I think because of him, I got that extra little bit of love, which was that tough love. But definitely made me a better player, man. But he was he toughened up my skin. Let's just say that, especially me being a short guy. You know what I mean? Definitely demanded that I perform. You know what I mean? In every little thing, whether it was boxing out, whether it was playing defense, whether it was making good passes, knocking down free throws. You know what I mean? Just John Gorham, well known out here, man. Legend out here, definitely.
Cool. So, uh, Steve, I want you to expand a little bit more on a specific memory that you might have with Coach Gorham.
Oh man, definitely. So going into my junior year, and I talk about this a lot because it was just a highlight of how much I had actually progressed in basketball. But it was going into my junior year before the seniors left. We played all the seniors, so the varsity team of all the underclassmen playing the seniors that were leaving, and I just played so well. And I remember him like he didn't have any hair, and he was damn near pulling the last of his hair out because he was just so just happy with how I played that I played like a big guy, just played so strong. You know what I mean? My speed was up, you know what I mean? Just everything about my skills, I was more confident. Confidence has always plagued me, you know what I mean? And you guys know, you guys have always told me, you got to shoot more, be more confident, you got to shoot more. And that was just the same thing I experienced in high school, again, with just being a pass first point guard. But I remember that clearly, man. This guy was yelling, he was up, and he was just so excited, man. Again, he had like three strands of hair and he pulled two of them out, man. And it was like that definitely stands out in my mind, man. Just him being happy about like, hey, about the coming season, definitely.
Awesome. Good coaches are always hard to come by, especially ones who celebrate with you. So that's uh
Yes.
that's really cool. So now we're taking it down to the Moose, and we're gonna ask him about his coaching experience in terms of the coach that he had that made a difference in his life.
Uh, I've definitely had, a ton of coaches that made an impact on me. Being an amputee since I was super young, the only sport I played, t-ball before having two legs. So, every coach that I've had was, I was something different to them. They never had an amputee kid, and I've had some coaches that have told me I can't do some things, but I've also had some great coaches that told me I could do anything. So a really big influence on my coaching, career. I'm a coach as well. Um, I had a really great coach in college, Bobby Morgan. When I played club baseball at IU, he had previously coached the D1 team there, and um, just an older guy, really old school, just in your face, yelling, cussing. But he was a motivator, and that's what he did. And I took some of that positive from him and what I do in coaches now. But he did some stuff that you definitely don't get away with now. But he held you accountable, and he wanted the best out of everybody, and he knew how to weed out the people that, you know, didn't want to do it and put in the work. And that's how you build a great team. And, you know, being at IU, I always, liked Bobby Knight, and those styles are very, very similar. Actually, a good story about the Hurricane Morgan. I used to get my hair cut across the street from my dorm, and I would go over there, and the barbers always cut the IU basketball players' hair. So every player that played for Bobby Knight. And when I told them I played for Coach Morgan, they were like, "Woo!" Like, I've had, like, they cut the baseball players' hair too, and he's like, those baseball players would say more stuff about, Coach Morgan than what those basketball players would say about Coach Knight. So um, there you go with that one. But it was awesome. Like, he did the coaching a baseball class at IU, which I got to TA for, and I learned a ton, not just about baseball, but how to coach and how to be a good coach. And one of my other favorite coaches that I really look up to is Doc Rivers. I've fortunately had the chance to meet him. His son played at IU um, when I was there, and got to meet him at a game. And then that Netflix playbook, if you guys haven't got to see it yet, that first episode, it's phenomenal. And he talks about that, Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, Ubuntu. Yeah, where it's, we're not us without each other. And that's the philosophy, that I, really put into coaching, and not just even coaching, but in life. And that's, it's really humbling to be around, people like that know and understand, like, if I can't be me without you, and to have that unity and that bond. And I think that's the best kind of team you can have. So as a coach myself, like, I just love that. And it's all about being a family and come together and doing it the right way. So yeah.
That's awesome. Um, all right, well, that's all we have for today. Well, just kidding, but we'll go over to Jovi, and we'll hear about some of his coaching, some of his coaches from his, I guess, all of his life. Let's hear it.
Sure. So kind of like Moose, being an amputee my whole life, it's been a journey for sure, as far as having coaches that understand kind of where you're at, especially as a competitor. We're all competitors, so obviously we all want to be able to play at a high level. We feel like we are at the same level as anybody with two legs. So having a coach that kind of like understood where that drive and passion comes from, speaking about obviously having like a chip on your shoulder and kind of all those ideas. I had coaches both that kind of embraced that, but also coaches that kind of allowed me to learn more about myself in a way where I wasn't the star player on the team, or I wasn't even a player that was going to see any time. I had to kind of humble myself and realize that there's a role to be played on a team, even if you are the last man on the bench. And I think being able to kind of understand that at a younger age, it didn't necessarily click as far as like me being complacent at that time, like, because I still wasn't. I was hungry. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be just as good as my friends, if not better than my friends, who were great basketball players at the time. I mean, we've been playing since we were like 5 years old. So Coach Elwood was my high school coach, and he was somebody that kind of put me in a position where I had to like really understand what it was to work for where you want to be, especially if you want to see the floor. Like, you have to be able to put the work in outside of practice, outside of whatever organized things you have going on, whether you're playing for an AAU team or not. You have to be putting in the work, the extra work, to be able to put yourself at a level where when you come back to practice and things, you can actually, you can show out. And that's kind of where I learned it at a young age. And it wasn't until really after high school that I really started to kind of figure out how much work it really takes to kind of be at a level where you're you're not just the sixth, seventh, eighth person on the bench. Like you're a starter, or you're somebody that really can take control of the game. So I think a mixture of having coaches that pushed me in a way where I probably wouldn't have been able to be pushed. Say I was somebody who was one of the better players or starting. So it was a mixture. And then I had coaches like Coach Jim Reed, that I played summer league with, who was somebody that kind of embraced the idea of me being somebody who could be a leader. And I think that was where I really learned how to not just play a role on a team, but also understand the roles that all your teammates play for you. When you play for each other, when you're part of a team that plays for each other, and you are unselfish and you want to see your teammates succeed, I think that's something that really starts to develop leadership outside of just playing basketball, both on the court and off the court, and having a team that feels like a family. And I think that that's something that, as a coach, I like to bring, you know what I'm saying, to the table as far as my philosophy, but also as a player too, because I see every time that we step on the court together that the chemistry that we have and the connection that we have, and that we've built over time. And not only does that feel the same on the court, but it feels the same off the court too. And we get to look up to each other and be role models for each other as far as what we're doing off the court as well. So I think those two coaches, especially in my youth, really influenced me, and kind of just where I'm at with the game now, and being wanting to be a coach, and kind of just evolving, from being, 22, 23, being young and learning to kind of get that OG game working now. Um, but no, it's been a blessing to have good coaches in your life, I feel like, and it's also it's a blessing when you have coaches that kind of you butt heads with too, because they're the ones that kind of push you to get to that next level. So I've been blessed to be able to have kind of one of each, in a sense.
Uh, that's awesome. It reminds me of a coach that I had. It was seventh grade football. This is the butting heads coach that I had. Seventh grade football, and I do remember this coach's name. His name was Coach Benson. And my whole life, I wanted to be a quarterback. And I wanted to be a quarterback because my grandfather was a quarterback. And when I showed up to practice on like the first day, he asked what position do you want to be? And I was like, I want to be a quarterback. And he said, you can't be a quarterback. You only have one arm. How are you going to take a snap? And I just remember that. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. I can literally place myself exactly on the football field that he said that to me, because let me tell you what, I took that and I used that. Oh man, I used that as fuel. So
Yes, sir.
the next year he was no longer the coach, but the new coach was like, what position you want to play? And I was like, well, the last year they wouldn't let me play quarterback, but that's what I want to play. And he said, all right, let's see if you can do it. And I ended up earning the quarterback, first team quarterback. And anyway, I just remember butting heads but that pushed me, that really pushed me. So now to my good coaches. I've been fortunate and blessed enough to have good coaches my entire life, literally from the start of basketball all the way up till I stopped playing truly competitively. My my first coach that I can like remember really well of being such an amazing coach, his name is Leo Hartman. And Coach Hartman had a very specific routine that he had to have in the morning, and that was he had to wake up at 4:15. He had to get an hour-long workout in before he could do anything. And if he didn't get that workout in, it was going to be a really bad day of practice.
Mhm.
But at the beginning of each practice, he started it off with two things. He started off with a Bible verse and a prayer. So I guess three things. And he started off with a word of the day. And I know that doesn't really have anything to do with basketball per se, but he wasn't teaching us just to be basketball players. He was teaching us how to be good humans. He was teaching us how to be better men. And I think I think beyond the idea of coach is just for a sport, that was one thing that he brought into perspective of you can have a coach in life, and that's what he wanted to be more than he wanted to be a basketball coach. So I will never forget him. Caveat. I love that word just because it came from Leo Hartman. Um, my second coach, his name was the second coach I want to mention. His name was John Ortega, and John Ortega was straight up a player's coach. He was my club basketball coach. I met him when I was playing for the Arizona Stars, going into it must have been seventh grade, and he had just graduated high school, so he's really young, and he was still super connected to, I guess, that just that younger crowd. And I played for him for one season under Art Dye. He was the assistant, and then he left the Stars program, and I didn't connect back with him until going into my freshman year of college or of high school. So about a year and a half difference. And since that time, he basically became, you know, part of the family. Again, he was young, but because of that, he could connect with us, and because he could connect with us, he could push us to do things. So I'll never forget him. He loved three words, and he would use these three words in any combination. But the first one was the F word. He loved it. The second one was baseline, and the third one was stupids. And again, he would use those in any combination you could imagine. He never meant anything negative about it. It was just that was just how he connected with so many of the players on the team, was to speak like that. It was just will never forget. I will never forget those three words because of my coach. And the final coach I want to mention, his name is Tom Woods. Still a coach that I speak with on the regular. He was that coach that was the father figure slash grandfather figure that I looked up to, at in addition to of course my dad and my grandfathers. But um, he was that guy that could connect with you in any way possible. He could push you based on being stern. He could push you based on connecting and knowing when to push and when to pull back. He pushed and connected with us on the court, on the field, off the court, and is just someone that I will forever be connected with, on such a personal level. I mean, he's that coach that, like, before I leave, like, again, I love him like a father, like a grandfather. I will tell him I love him, and he just had that connection with me that I haven't I haven't had any other connection like that, opposed to my dad or my grandfather. So, Coach Tom Woods, he coached me in football and in basketball at various times throughout junior high and high school. So that's what I got for you in terms of coaches on
Yeah,
my. But
yeah.
Jovi and Nick both brought up the aspect of team, and I can't help but relate good coaches to good teams that I've had. And quite literally the opposite, bad coaches, bad teams. And I think maybe another discussion we should have should be around teams and some of the best teams that we've been able to be a part of, um, and how they interact with the coaches, um,
Mhm.
both good and bad. So maybe that could be another discussion. But that's all we got for Tuesday talks. Appreciate it.